The Zarathian fleet drifted silently through the void, their sleek, angular ships glinting under the light of a distant star. High Inquisitor Vrax stood on the command deck of the flagship, his four eyes scanning the holographic display before him. The humans had been nothing more than a footnote in the Zarathian archives, a young, divided species barely capable of interstellar travel. Yet here they were, a lone warship floating in the depths of space, its design unlike anything the Zarathians had ever seen. Vrax sneered, his mandibles clicking in amusement. "Scan it," he ordered, his voice dripping with condescension. "Let us see what these primitives consider a warship." The Zarathian scanners hummed to life, their advanced sensors probing the human vessel. The results were perplexing. The ship's hull was composed of materials that defied the Zarathians' understanding of physics. Lightweight yet impossibly durable, radiating an energy signature that fluctuated in ways their instruments couldn't fully comprehend. The power core was a mystery, emitting a steady, almost rhythmic pulse that seemed to resonate with the fabric of space itself. Vrax frowned, his confidence wavering for the first time. "Impossible," he muttered. "This must be a malfunction. No species as young could possess such technology." His second-in-command, a nervous Zarathian named Krell, hesitated before speaking. "High Inquisitor, perhaps we should proceed with caution. The readings are—" "Silence!" Vrax snapped, his pride stung by the suggestion. "They are humans, weak, divided, and primitive. Their ship is a curiosity, nothing more. Prepare a warning shot. Let them know who they are dealing with." The Zarathian weapon systems charged, their energy cannons glowing with a menacing light. A single bolt of plasma streaked across the void, aimed at the human ship's bow. The shot struck, or should have struck. Instead, it dissipated harmlessly against an invisible barrier, the energy absorbed as if by a sponge. The human ship remained motionless, its lights dimmed, its silence unnerving. Vrax's mandibles twitched in irritation. Again! Full power this time. The Zarathian fleet unleashed a barrage of plasma fire, their weapons lighting up the darkness. Yet the human ship remained untouched, its energy field absorbing every shot with ease. The alien's confidence began to wane, replaced by a growing sense of unease. Vrax clenched his fists, his voice rising in frustration. "What is this trickery? How are they doing this?" Before anyone could answer, the human ship stirred. Its lights flared to life, illuminating its sleek, angular design. Weapons ports slid open, revealing arrays of glowing emitters that hummed with barely contained power. The Zarathian scanner screamed in alarm as the human ship systems came online, its energy signature spiking to levels that threatened to overload their instruments. Vrax's eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible. How can they—" A single beam of energy lanced out from the human ship, striking one of the Zarathian vessels with surgical precision. The alien ship erupted in a blinding flash, its hull disintegrating into molten debris. The Zarathians stared in stunned silence, their arrogance shattered in an instant. Vrax's voice trembled as he issued his next command. "Fall back, regroup, and prepare for—" The human ship moved, its engines flaring with a brilliance that left afterimages in the Zarathian's eyes. It darted through the void with impossible speed, maneuvering with a grace that defied the laws of physics. The Zarathian fleet scrambled to respond, their formations breaking as panic set in. Vrax barked orders, his voice tinged with desperation. "Focus fire. Target their engines. Do not let them—" Another beam of energy struck, this time severing the flagship's primary weapon array. The Zarathians' return fire was sporadic and ineffective, their shots either missing entirely or being absorbed by the human ship's shields. Vrax's mind raced, his thoughts a chaotic jumble of fear and disbelief. How could this be happening? How could a species so young, so divided, possess such power? The human ship's voice filled the Zarathian calms, calm and measured, yet carrying an undercurrent of menace. "You should not have fired first." The word sent a chill through Vrax's exoskeleton. He had underestimated them, dismissed them as weak and primitive. Now he realized his mistake, a mistake that might cost him everything. The Zarathian fleet was in disarray, their once proud ships reduced to fleeing targets. Vrax's mind raced, searching for a way to salvage the situation. But deep down, he knew the truth. They had provoked a force far beyond their understanding. The humans were not the weak, divided species the archives had described. They were something else entirely, something dangerous. And Vrax had just made the worst mistake of his life. The Zarathian fleet scrambled to regroup, their ships weaving erratically as they tried to evade the relentless human warship. High Inquisitor Vrax barked orders, his voice tinged with desperation. Form a defensive perimeter. Focus all firepower on that ship. We cannot let them. His words were cut off as another beam of energy lanced out from the human vessel, slicing through a Zarathian cruiser like a hot knife through butter. The ship exploded in a blinding flash, its debris scattering into the void. Vrax's mandibles clenched in frustration. This was not how it was supposed to go. They were the Zarathians, the conquerors of 100 worlds. How could a single human ship be doing this? The human warship moved with an almost predatory grace, its engines flaring as it darted through chaos. Its weapon systems were unlike anything the Zarathians had ever encountered. Precise, efficient, and devastatingly powerful. Each shot struck with unerring accuracy, crippling alien vessels with surgical precision. The Zarathians' return fire was sporadic and ineffective, their plasma bolts either missing entirely or being absorbed by the human ship's shimmering energy shields. Vrax's mind raced as he tried to comprehend the situation. How could a species so young, so divided, possess such technology? It defied all logic. Krell, his second-in-command, approached cautiously, his voice trembling. High Inquisitor, we cannot win this. Their technology is beyond anything we've ever seen. We must retreat while we still can. Vrax turned on him, his eyes blazing with fury. Retreat? We are Zarathians. We do not retreat from primitives. But even as he spoke, doubt gnawed at the edges of his mind. The humans were not primitives. That much was clear. Their ship was a masterpiece of engineering, a testament to a level of technological advancement that rivaled, or perhaps surpassed, their own. The human warship's voice crackled over the comms, calm and measured, yet carrying an undercurrent of menace. You have made a grave error in judgment. Cease your aggression or face the consequences. Vrax hesitated, his pride warring with his survival instincts. To surrender would be unthinkable, a stain on his honor that would never fade. But to continue fighting, that might mean annihilation. He clenched his fists, his mandibles twitching in frustration. We will not yield to lesser beings, he roared, his voice echoing through the command deck. All ships, focus fire on their engines. We must disable them. The Zarathian fleet rallied, their remaining ships converging on the human warship in a desperate attempt to overwhelm it. Plasma bolts streaked to the void, their fiery trails illuminating the darkness. But the human ship was ready. Its energy shields flared brighter as it absorbed the barrage, its weapon systems humming with power. A swarm of drones erupted from its hull, each one a tiny, agile predator armed with cutting-edge weaponry. They darted through the Zarathian fleet, targeting engines, weapons arrays, and communication systems with ruthless efficiency. The alien ships began to falter, their systems failing one by one. Vrax watched in horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled. The human warship was not just a weapon. It was a predator, toying with its prey before delivering the killing blow. He felt a cold knot of fear tighten in his chest. This was not a battle. It was a slaughter, and he had led his people into it. High Inquisitor. Krell's voice was frantic now. We must retreat. There is no shame in survival. Vrax hesitated, his pride crumbling under the weight of reality. He opened his mouth to give the order, but before he could speak, the human warship struck again. A massive beam of energy lanced out, striking the flagship's engines. The ship shuddered violently, its systems failing as the power core went critical. Alarms blared, and the crew scrambled to contain the damage. But it was too late. The flagship was dead in the void, its once proud hull now a drifting hulk. Vrax stared at the holographic display, his mind reeling. This could not be happening. They were the Zarathians, the masters of the stars. How could they be defeated so easily? The human warship's voice filled the comms once more, its tone calm and unwavering. This is your final warning. Surrender or be destroyed. Vrax's mandibles twitched as he weighed his options. Surrender would mean humiliation, but it would also mean survival. To continue fighting would mean certain death. He glanced at Krell, who nodded silently, his eyes filled with fear. Vrax took a deep breath, his pride crumbling under the weight of reality. "All ships," he said, his voice heavy with defeat. "Stand down. We surrender." The Zarathian fleet fell silent, their weapon systems powering down as a human warship loomed over them like a silent sentinel. Vrax slumped his command chair, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. He had underestimated the humans, dismissed them as weak and primitive. Now he realized the truth. They were anything but. Their technology, their strategy, their resolve. It was all far beyond anything the Zarathians had anticipated. And as he sat there, surrounded by the wreckage of his fleet, he knew one thing for certain. They had made a terrible mistake, one they would never forget. The Zarathian fleet hung in the void, their ships crippled and adrift, their once proud formations reduced to scattered debris. High Inquisitor Vrax sat in silence on the command deck of his flagship, his mandibles twitching as he stared at the holographic display. The Human Warship loomed before them, its sleek hull glowing faintly in the darkness, a silent reminder of their defeat. The comms crackled to life, and the human commander's voice filled the air, calm and measured. "You have surrendered. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." Vrax clenched his fists, his pride warring with the cold reality of their situation. To be boarded by the humans, by the very species he had dismissed as primitive, was a humiliation beyond measure. Yet, what choice did he have? Their ships were disabled, their weapons useless. To resist would be suicide. He turned to Krell, his second-in-command, who stood nearby, his expression a mixture of fear and resignation. "Prepare the crew," Vrax said, his voice heavy with defeat. "We will comply for now." The human boarding parties arrived swiftly, their shuttles docking with the Zarathian ships with precision and efficiency. The humans moved with a confidence that was both impressive and unnerving, their advanced armor and weaponry a stark contrast to the Zarathians' now outdated gear. Vrax watched as they secured the flagship, their movements calm and deliberate, as if they had done this 1,000 times before. The humans' discipline was evident, their every action calculated and purposeful. It was clear that they were not conquerors, but something far more dangerous, protectors. And they had been provoked. The human commander, a tall figure clad in sleek black armor, stepped onto the command deck, his helmet retracting to reveal a face that was both stern and compassionate. He regarded Vrax with a steady gaze, his voice calm but firm. "High Inquisitor Vrax, you are now in the custody of the United Earth Fleet. Your actions have endangered the peace of this sector, and you will answer for them." Vrax bristled at the words, his pride flaring, but he said nothing. What could he say? They had been outmatched in every way. As the humans secured the Zarathian ships, they also began providing medical aid to the injured aliens. Vrax watched in stunned silence as human medics treated his crew, their actions gentle and efficient. It was a stark contrast to the brutality he had expected. Krell approached him, his voice low. "High Inquisitor, they are helping us. Why would they do this?" Vrax had no answer. The humans' actions defied everything he had been taught about lesser species. They were supposed to be weak, divided, and selfish. Yet here they were, showing compassion to their enemies. The human commander approached Vrax once more, his expression unreadable. "You underestimated us," he said, his voice calm but carrying an edge of steel. "You saw us as primitive, divided, and weak. But you were wrong. Humanity has faced countless challenges, and we have emerged stronger each time. We do not seek conquest, but we will defend ourselves against those who threaten us." Vrax felt a flicker of shame as the words sank in. He had been so certain of his superiority, so blinded by his arrogance. Now he saw the truth. Humanity was not a species to be underestimated. The humans began gathering data from the Zarathian ships, their advanced technology allowing them to access the alien systems with ease. Vrax watched helplessly as they extracted information about the Zarathian Empire, their military capabilities, and their history of conquest. The human commander studied the data, his expression growing grim. "Your empire has caused great suffering," he said, his voice tinged with anger. "But we are not like you. We will not destroy you. Instead, we will give you a choice. Join us in building a galaxy where peace and cooperation are valued above conquest and domination." Vrax stared at the human commander, his mind reeling. Join them? It was unthinkable. Yet, as he looked around at his crippled fleet, at his injured crew, he realized that they had no other options. The Zarathian Empire had always valued strength above all else, but now, faced with the overwhelming power and compassion of the humans, he began to question everything he had ever believed. Krell stepped forward, his voice trembling. "High Inquisitor, perhaps this is a chance for us to change, to be something more than conquerors." Vrax hesitated, his pride warring with the realization that they had been given a rare opportunity. The humans were offering them a chance to rebuild, to become something better. But could he accept it? Could he set aside his pride and embrace this new path? The human commander seemed to sense his internal struggle. "The choice is yours," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But know this. If you choose to continue down the path of conquest, we will stop you. And next time, there will be no mercy." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Vrax glanced at Krell, then at the rest of his crew, their faces filled with a mixture of fear and hope. He took a deep breath, his mandibles twitching as he made his decision. We accept your offer," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The human commander nodded, his expression softening slightly. "Then let this be the beginning of a new era," he said, "for both our species." As the humans began the process of repairing the Zarathian ships and integrating them into their alliance, Vrax felt a strange sense of relief. The weight of his pride, of his empire's expectations, began to lift. For the first time in his life, he saw a future that was not defined by conquest and domination, but by cooperation and growth. And though the road ahead would be difficult, he knew that it was the right path. The humans had shown him that strength was not just about power, but about compassion and wisdom. And for that, he would be forever grateful. The Zarathian fleet, now under the supervision of the United Earth Fleet, drifted in formation as repairs began. High Inquisitor Vrax stood on the command deck of his flagship, his mandibles twitching as he watched the humans work. Their efficiency was staggering, their technology seamlessly integrating with the Zarathian systems. It was a humbling sight, one that forced Vrax to confront the reality of his situation. The humans were not just powerful. They were benevolent, offering aid and guidance where others would have sought retribution. It was a concept foreign to the Zarathian way of thinking, yet one that resonated deeply within him. The human commander, whose name Vrax had learned was Captain Elias Grant, approached him once more. His presence was commanding yet calm, a reflection of the humanity he represented. "High Inquisitor," Grant began, his voice steady, "your fleet will be repaired and your crew treated. But this is not just about fixing ships. It's about forging a new path. Your empire has a choice to make. Continue down the road of conquest, or join us in building a galaxy where peace and cooperation are the foundations of progress." Vrax hesitated, his pride still a heavy burden. "You speak of peace," he said, his voice tinged with skepticism. "But your actions show your strength. How can we trust that this is not merely another form of domination?" Grant's expression softened, and he gestured to the viewport, where human and Zarathian engineers worked side by side. "Strength is not about subjugation," he replied. "It's about protection. We do not seek to control others. We seek to ensure that no one can threaten the freedom and safety of those who wish to live in peace. Your empire has the potential to be a part of that future, but the choice is yours." The word struck a chord within Vrax. For centuries, the Zarathian Empire had measured its worth by the number of worlds it had conquered, the species it had subjugated. But now, faced with the humans' unwavering resolve and compassion, he began to see the flaws in that philosophy. Krell approached, his voice low but filled with conviction. "High Inquisitor, perhaps it is time to consider a different path. The humans have shown us that there is another way, one that does not require us to sacrifice our honor." Vrax turned to Krell, his mandibles twitching as he considered the words. Honor. It was a concept deeply ingrained in Zarathian culture, yet one that had become twisted over time. True honor, he realized, was not about dominance or pride. It was about integrity, about doing what was right even when it was difficult. He took a deep breath, his decision crystallizing in his mind. "Captain Grant," he said, his voice firm, "we will join you, but know this, it will not be easy. Our people are proud, and change will not come quickly." Grant nodded, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Change never is," he replied, "but it is worth the effort. Together, we can create a galaxy where all species can thrive, free from the fear of conquest and destruction." The words were simple, yet they carried a weight that Vrax could not ignore. For the first time in his life, he felt a sense of hope, a belief that the future could be brighter than the past. As the repairs continued, the humans began sharing their technology and knowledge with the Zorathians. It was a gesture of trust that Vrax found both surprising and humbling. The humans' willingness to help their former enemies spoke volumes about their character, and it forced Vrax to confront his own biases. He had always viewed other species as inferior, as obstacles to be overcome. But now, he saw them as potential allies, as beings with their own strengths and wisdom. It was a profound shift in perspective, one that would take time to fully embrace. The human fleet, now joined by the Zorathians, set a course for a nearby star system where a meeting of galactic powers was to take place. The humans had invited representatives from dozens of species, each with their own histories and conflicts, to discuss the formation of a united alliance. Vrax watched as the fleet entered the system, his mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. The Zorathian Empire had always stood apart, viewing itself as superior to all others. Now, they would have to find their place among equals. The meeting was held on a massive space station, its design a blend of countless cultures and technologies. Vrax stood beside Captain Grant as they entered the Grand Hall, where representatives from across the galaxy had gathered. The atmosphere was tense, the weight of centuries of conflict and mistrust hanging in the air. Grant stepped forward, his voice carrying the authority of one who had earned the respect of his peers. "We are here today not as conquerors, but as protectors," he began. "The galaxy is vast and its challenges are great, but together we can overcome them. Together, we can build a future where all species can thrive." The words were met with silence, the representatives absorbing their meaning. Vrax stepped forward, his voice steady despite the turmoil within him. "The Zorathian Empire has long stood apart, viewing itself as superior to all others. But we have learned that true strength lies not in domination, but in cooperation. We stand here today, not as conquerors, but as equals. And we pledge to work with all of you to build a galaxy where peace and prosperity are the foundations of progress." The hall erupted in murmurs, the representatives exchanging glances as they processed Vrax's words. It was a moment of profound significance, a turning point in the history of the galaxy. The humans had not just defeated the Zorathians, they had inspired them to change. And in doing so, they had set the stage for a new era, one defined not by conflict but by unity. As the meeting continued, Vrax found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. He had begun it as a conqueror, certain of his superiority. Now, he stood as a partner, humbled by the wisdom and compassion of the humans. It was a transformation he had never anticipated, yet one that filled him with a sense of purpose. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time, he believed it was a road worth traveling. The Human Warship, now a symbol of hope rather than fear, drifted silently in the void, its mission far from over. The galaxy was vast, and its challenges were many, but with the Zorathians by their side, the humans were ready to face them. Together, they would build a future where all species could thrive, free from the shadows of conquest and destruction. And as Vrax looked out at the stars, he knew one thing for certain: they had made the right choice.